tell you that you can be in touch with us by writing to us using the SMS number, or you can talk to us using the social media platforms that are appearing on your screen. Then, before we continue, before we look at the Constitution of Kenya, I want us to look at this question. There is a question that I've written on the wall, on my white board, so that we are going to answer that question later in as the lesson progresses. So the question is: the highest power to rule the country lies with A, the president, the president, B, the speaker, C, the Chief Justice, and D, the Attorney General. So that's the question I want you to answer. You can SMS your answer to me using the SMS number that is on your screen. And remember, as I've told you, my name is Mr. Vincent Obuki from Thika Road Christian School here in Nairobi. Let's look at the government of Kenya, and we are going to look at the Constitution. Before we embark on the Constitution and the aspects of our Constitution today, I want us to just look at what is the Constitution. I think this is the question that you've answered in the previous classes. But this is a set of rules that govern a country. A constitution is a set of rules that govern a country. I remember that is what we call the national constitution. Sometimes we also have different types of constitutions. Remember, a football club could be having its own constitution. We also have, sometimes you have a club, it has a constitution. Even I think a home as a constitution, a church as a constitution. So we are looking at that framework through which we are going to be governed. I tend to believe that sometimes in the past, our communities did not have the constitution. Remember, I think, our community did not have a national constitution. Communities had their own constitutions. But with the coming of the white man, I think after colonization, then we had a national constitution that also brought about nationality, whereby the government of the country, Kenya, had one constitution. Remember what would happen, because we are going to look at it, the importance of a constitution. Without a constitution, how could we be? Whereby it would be like we are in the jungle. So we are looking at this constitution, and I think we are going to go a bit fast because we have a lot to cover and within the shortest time possible. But I will try as much as possible not to go very fast and not to go very slowly so that you can cover a lot. At the end of this topic, we are going to look at some of the questions that are going to appear. There are some questions that appear or which have appeared in KCP the previous years. There will be a set of questions, about 10 of them. There are many, but I picked about 10 of them to show you how the questions are going to set from this area. Now, before we look at the current constitution and the elements or the chapters, I want us to have a background of what a constitution is, of what the Kenyan constitution has been. We cannot talk about the current constitution without talking about the independence constitution. When you talk about the independence constitution, this is the constitution that Kenya got independence with. This was written in 1962 in the Second Lancaster House Conference in London. So this is the constitution that we had, and this is a constitution that we dealt with, or we had it for a long, long time. Until we made changes, or we did a total overhaul of the constitution a few years ago. We shall talk about it also. So when you talk about independence constitution, we are talking about the constitution that Kenya got independence with. And remember, as the lawyers say, a constitution, it is a living document. Sometimes we cannot live with one constitution forever. That's why even there are some provisions in the constitution which talk about it is a kind of change or amendment. So when we talk about an independence constitution, It was written in 1962 during the second Lancaster House Conference that was held in London. Then we shall also talk about what we call the amendment of the Constitution. When we talk about the amendment of the Constitution, when we talk about the amendment, we are talking about changing or changes. I have said that a constitution is a living document whereby you may find that you cannot stay with one constitution for forever. So you find there are provisions, even the current constitution, as areas or as provisions of changing it. Even before that, we also know that our parliament, which we are going to talk about, has also the mandate of making changes in the current constitution. And for your information, and this question is also asked in our KCP questions, is for a constitution to be amended, it must attract 2/3 of all the members of parliament present. It must attract 2/3 of all the members of parliament present. In fact, we are also going to look at the composition of our parliament. In fact, when we go there, then we are going to look at briefly how many members of parliament must be present for them to effect the change when it comes to amendment. We are going to look at that because it's also a very important part of our questions or our areas whereby you find that questions are asked from that area. So amendment is making changes of a constitution, and I think our constitution has been changed over and over. There are some amendments which have been made on it, and sometimes when we find that we may no longer, we need a broader look at the constitution, then we talk about a review of the constitution. Then we talk about a review of the constitution. When we talk about the review of the constitution, this is a lengthy process, which also must involve the whole population of a country, whereby people are going to be asked about their views about the current constitution and what needs to be changed. So when such a time comes, you will find that there is a group or a commission that is put in place that goes around the country to look for views. After getting the views, then they are going to consolidate the views, and then after that, we are going leads to what we call a referendum, and I'm going to talk about a referendum. So when you find that after the review of the constitution, then you find that after that we go to vote over that proposed constitution which the people have put their input in. What happens is that now we go to a vote whereby we vote yes or no. So the yes or no vote is what we call the constitution, and that's a common question. The yes or no vote is what we call the constitution, is what we call a referendum. And after the referendum, the next process that comes is now to officially have or launch that constitution. What happens is that now there is a time that we are going to launch it so that we can use it. That is what we call the promulgation of the constitution. Promulgation of that constitution, whereby that is the official launch of a constitution so that it can now be used by the people of that particular country. Remember, our current constitution that we are using, we normally call it the 2010 constitution. The 2010 constitution was promulgated, these dates are very important, on 27th of August 2010. Remember, in social studies we have dates of different events, and remember the examiner is going to give you different events, and it's going to ask you which one of the following is the correct order in which these events took place. So it's better that as we are revising for our national exam, then we must know that different events in history of Kenya, they have taken place at different times. And the promulgation of the constitution is such one event that took place on 27th August 2010. That is the current constitution we are talking about. And if you are aware of the current happenings, there is that clamor that we must also make some changes. That's why I've told you that the Constitution is not static. It's a living document which must be changed to address and to correspond to the needs of the population at a particular time. Remember, the Constitution touches every aspect of our life. So be it money, be it security, be it government, be it our culture, our Constitution touches on those. And you find these are the things that keep on changing, and then they need to be addressed sometimes by changing the Constitution or by making amendments on it. Now, let's go now to the core of our today's lesson. That's the class 7 lesson. We are talking about the elements of the Constitution. I think let's look at the elements of the Constitution. These are also called the chapters of the Constitution. Remember, I gave you at the beginning of the lesson, there is a question I gave you, and I hope that you are writing the correct answer, because if you are sending the answer to us, then we should be in a position to read your answer at the end of the program or at the end of the lesson. The highest power to rule the country lies with the President, the Speaker, the Chief Justice, and I want to add you one more answer there. Let me go against the KCP rules. Let me add D, the people of Kenya. I've given you, remember this is not a real question, KCP, which has 4 options, but this one has 5, as 5 options. The highest power to rule the country lies with, there is the President, there is the Speaker, there is the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, and the people of Kenya. So we have 5 answers there. From there, you can give me one correct answer. You can SMS your answer to the number on your screen, that is 0739 110-544, or you can use our media platform and communicate to us, that student that is at home and you're listening to me from your living room this morning, so that I can see whether we are together or what you know about this particular question, which is a simple question that can be asked in a KCP. Now, let's look at the chapters. Remember, the Constitution has got chapters. These are elements. These are sections of the Constitution. And in fact, the most common part I want you to know today is that, do you know how many they are? How many chapters of the Constitution do we have? That's very important. And if you know, do you know how, which Constitution talks about what? So today, I want us to know that the chapters or the elements of the Constitution, they are 18. So there are 18 chapters of the Constitution, which touch on different issues that affect the people of Kenya. So we are looking at the chapters of the Constitution, which are 18, and I hope my director is going to put them up. I'm going to talk about a few of them. The elements of the Constitution, the chapters, there are 18 of them. And I'm going to just take you through, and then after that, I'll discuss a few of these chapters. 1, we have sovereignty of the people and supremacy of the Constitution as number 1. Then we have the Republic, number 2. Number 3, we have citizenship. Number 4, we have the human rights, normally known as the Bill of Rights. Number 5, it talks about the land and environment. How are you going to relate with our land and environment? And when we talk about land, we want to talk about how is our land divided into. And we have 3 types of land that we have in Kenya. Then we are going to look at that. Then, after that, we are going to look at number 6. This one is very common, is what we call leadership and integrity. And this one actually is going to appeal to our leaders. When we talk about leaders, those people who take public offices, there is some kind of integrity they are supposed to have. Leadership and integrity is going to be chapter 6. Chapter 7 is what talks about where we have elections, what we call representation. Then chapter 8, 9, and 10, I normally tell students, my pupils, that they should take this simple acronym. Chapter 8, 9, and 10. It is 8, 9, and 10. You write ledge. It's easy for you to know that. 8, 9, and 10 is ledge. That is, we talk about ledge here. That is the legislature, the executive, and judiciary. So you can know that. Just from 8, 9, and 10, you know that it's ledge. The legislature, the executive, and judiciary. And in fact, as we're going to look at some of the questions that I've given you, this question has been said, whereby they are asking you, what is the importance of our constitution? Actually, it's going to give us the structure of government. And remember, when we talk about these arms of government here, they are the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. They are the arms of government. Remember, the Constitution talks about them. It talks about how they're going to interdepend. You know, they are supposed to complement each or one another. So these are the elements of the Constitution, or these are the arms of government, or that's the structure of government. So one of the advantages or the importances of the Constitution is that it is going to tell us or to give us the structure of government, apart from also bringing harmony, whereby we know who is going to do what. So that is one area that we are going to look at. Then we will look at chapter 11. Chapter 11, we are talking about devolved government. I remember after the 2010 Constitution, we talked about Kenya becoming, or our country becoming, or being divided into what we call the devolved units. And remember, there are 47 of them. So they all, this is a full unity on devolved government. Then something to do with our finances, how we are going to rate and get our money. It is going to be in public finance. That's chapter 12. Then chapter 13, we talk about the public service. Chapter 14, the national security. Chapter 15, commissions and independent offices. For example, the Teacher Service Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, they are under that. Then chapter 16, we talk about the amendment of the Constitution. As I told you that the Constitution is not static. This is a living document which needs to be changed over and over. So there is a roadmap that has been given. There is a journey. There is a way that this is going to be done. And this one has been given in chapter 16. Chapter 17, we have general provisions. And lastly, we have transition and consequential provisions, how we are going to transit from one particular constitution to the other. So we have the 18 of them, and I'm going to, because our syllabus, class 7, class 8 syllabus, talks much about 1 to 10 if you have been very keen. So we are going to look at some of the chapters and what they are, what they are about. So let's have a look at some of the chapters of this constitution. One, let's look at look at the constitution. Let's look at chapter 1. And if you even, okay, if you look at this question, actually, it's going to, we are going to get it from chapter 1. Chapter 1 talks about the supremacy of our constitution and the sovereignty of it. So all, it says, all highest or sovereign power to rule the country. I know that sometimes we look at this answer as being correct. And remember, that is how, if you look at my question here, yes, that's very good. If you look at this question here, I think many students will just look at the president, because they think that the president is the big man. I want to tell you today that the president gets his power from the people. That's actually why he goes back to the people after every 5 years, so that we can give him a new mandate. So the highest power to hire and fire lies with us. And one of the, and I've seen this question in KCP, what are some of the advantages of going to elections so that we can vote out those people whose work is poor? That's the question that I've seen in KCP over the years that I've taught. So that shows you that actually the people who have got the ultimate power in Kenya, it's not the leaders. Actually, we have donated this power to them. These offices. So when you talk about sometimes, but it becomes the opposite. When you see the president, you can rail fringe and you can, freeze. But remember, you have given him that power. So the highest power to rule the people of Kenya is not the president, it's not the speaker, it's not the chief justice, it's not the attorney general. These people, we have donated this from them. Actually, the correct answer is the people of Kenya, the highest. Because should you see this question here, I know should it come, sometimes it can be a problem to most of us. whereby we shall, and you know the examiner knows where you are going to run to, and that's why he puts the president as A, so that you can rush and get the, and write the correct answers or the wrong answers as the president. So that is there. So that one is found in chapter 1 of the Constitution. Then let's look at chapter 2. I want to take a little bit time on chapter 2 because it has also other things that I want to talk about. Chapter 2 talks about the following one. Some of the things that appear in chapter 2. One, we have devolution. So in chapter 2 we have the following. Remember, this is not devolved government, which is talked about in chapter 11. So it only talks that this, the country Kenya is going to be divided or to be divided into 47. It does not talk much about it. It only mentions that it's going to be, Kenya is going to be, is going to be divided into 47 units. Then another thing that appears in chapter 2 is actually about our national language and official language. So chapter 2 talks about our national language, and 2, as you can see here, official languages. Now if you look at this, we have a national language is 1, official languages are 2. So what are they? The national language is Kiswahili. The official languages are 2, that is Kiswahili and English. That's what the question talks about. So our national language, if you go to any part of this country, you can only speak in Swahili and people can get you. And I know that about 98% of Kenyans can understand or can speak in Swahili. They may not write in Swahili, but just quite a number. I think even my grandmother back at home, where I was born and brought up, she can speak some kind of Kiswahili because it's a national language. She can do that. So the constitution is very clear about the national language and the official languages. Here they are. Then that very chapter talks about the national symbols and national days. In fact, sometimes you get this question: which one of the following is not a national symbol? So we talk about the national symbols and national days. I don't know whether they can be put up. Even sometimes you can have them in pictures. I don't know if the picture is there. So you have the national symbols. This is very important for you candidates because this question is very common in KCP. They ask you which one of the following is not a national symbol, and I'm about to tell you what a symbol is. They are the following: the national flag. They are in our constitution. 2, the national anthem. Then we have the coat of arms. The coat of arms and the public seal, what you call the government stamp. Now those are the 4 national symbols. I can see we have 2 of them there. We have 2 of them there. That is actually the national flag, and we also have the coat of arms. Remember, there are 2 more. We have the national anthem. Remember, these symbols are actually like signs, such that if you are somewhere, you are even out of the country, you look at the flag of Kenya, you know that this is Kenya which is talked about. You hear about the public seal, you know about that is actually about Kenya. You hear the national anthem, by the way, when our athletes are competing in the national platform, and you can hear the national anthem being played, you know that there is something that concerns Kenya that is talked about. So that is what we call the national symbol. And lastly, that public seal is actually the Kenyan stamp. That's Kenyan official stamp. Sometimes they ask you, which is the Kenyan national or official stamp? That is the seal. I've told you that when we talk about the symbols, we are looking at the signs, such that these are the things that when you see, you relate them with Kenya. You relate them with Kenya. The national flag, You know that's Kenya. You know its color. Then you know about the coat of arms. You know about the national anthem and the public seal. Those are the 4 symbols of the country Kenya that have been outlined in our constitution, and they are found in chapter 2 of the constitution. Then let's let's go ahead and talk about the national days. Remember, I can ask you, which is the national day that is coming? And I wonder how we are going to celebrate it. In fact, we have not seen a way forward. I don't know whether we are going to meet now that we cannot meet because of this pandemic. But I know there is a way maybe the president is going to be in State House and address, but there must be some form of celebration that is going to take place on 1st June. That's when we have Madaraka Day. So there are 3 national days that are constitutionally known, and they're found in chapter 2. Sometimes why I go slowly by slowly is that somebody can ask you, which chapter we find this? Some examiner can ask you that. Which chapter of the constitution do we have the national days? The national days here, we have them. They are 3. We have Madaraka Day. And by the way, when you talk about Madaraka Day, it happens on 1st June 1st June every year. And the question is, do you know what they are about? And I've seen this question, Samia, in KCP or in other exams, whereby you are going to be told what happened on this particular day. When you talk about Madaraka Day, that's when Kenya got internal self-government. That's very important. Not independence. And let me take you to the same year. And this one happened first. I want to take these dates very, very, very seriously. 1st June 1963, Kenya got internal self-government. 1963, 1st June. Independence followed after 6 months. 12th June 1963, Kenya became independent. I want to tell you also that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was actually the prime minister from 1st June. Then when we got independence, in the same year, 1963, 12th December, Kenyatta still was the prime minister. 1 year after that, that is 1964, 12th December, Kenya became a republic, what we celebrate as Jamhuri Day. So these days are very important. So what happened in this particular year? In 1963, 1st June, I hope you are writing this date somewhere in your living room. It is 1963, 1st June, Kenya got internal self-government, normally known as Madaraka. 6 months after that, that is 12th December, 1963, Kenya became independent. 1 year after that, 1964, 12th December, 1964, Kenya became a republic, with Kenyatta becoming the president. So Kenyatta served as the prime minister, the first prime minister for that matter, for a period of 18 months, from 1st June 1963 to December 12th, 1964. And with that, now we have mentioned about the 2 very critical national days that we have. One, Madaraka Day, 1st June, then Jamhuri Day, that's 12th December. Then we also have Mashujaa Day, or what we call Heroes Day. That is, it was actually formally known as Kenyatta Day. But remember, was given to celebrate our heroes from all spheres, be it sports, be it agriculture, every other sphere. Then that's what we call Mashujaa Day or Heroes Day, which is celebrated on 20th of October every year. So we have 3 national days that are known. Somebody is going to ask me, how about 1st May? That is actually the Labor Day. It's not our national day, it's an international day. So make sure that you know that. So Labor Day is not, as much as we stay home, we don't go to school, it's not a national day, it's an international day whereby we are celebrating our workers, what we call the International Labor Day or Labor Day. Then we also have, there's something that I skipped there, we also have something about religion. It's also found in chapter 2, whereby the constitution states very clearly that the Kenya does not have what we call a national yeah, a national religion. We don't have one national religion or official religion. So every person has the liberty to practice his own religion as long as it is within the law. Then we talk about the national values and principles of governance. These are very many of them. Some of the national values here, they are national unity. We talk about patriotism, sharing, the rule of laws, equality, respect for human rights. They are there. Social justice, transparency, and accountability. Those are national values which are also outlined in Chapter 2 of our Constitution. Then lastly, what also talked about this Chapter 2, we have what we call the culture. Then the Constitution recognizes every culture. That's why I tend to believe that in the new syllabus, we also have even books that are written in the first language. That is to continue with our culture, because Waswahili wanasema kwamba mwacha mila ni mtumwa. So the government, actually the government of Kenya, the nation of Kenya values your culture. And remember, culture, as looked at class 4, culture is the people's way of life. So every other people have their way of life, and they should be respected. And I think we must, or we should appreciate each other's culture, and then we should borrow the culture that is good from them, and then it's going to enrich our diversity. So let us respect other people's culture. Don't look down upon people's culture. Whatever they are doing, that is according to them, unless as long as they are not going to interfere with yours. So culture is given prominence in Chapter 2 of our Constitution. And remember, in class 4, if I can take you back, we talked about the aspects of culture. One of them being the language to medicine. There's a reason as well I've talked about medicine. Remember, you're talking about herbal medicine. And I've seen this question here, which one of the following statements is true about the traditional medicine? And the fact that is true there, I want to just mention, because I've seen some and students who had problems with that, is that the traditional medicine was actually given through or by trained personnel. The word trained was a problem to most of the students when I was in class, but I also want to share with you that they were trained indeed. And if I can ask you, how were they trained? Actually, they were trained through what we call staying with an expert, so that you can know about this herb, you can know about this fruit, you can know about how you're prepared. What we call apprenticeship, whereby you go and stay with an expert. After that, you are going to know one or two things about that medicine. Remember, medicine is very critical. It cannot be given by any quack here. So these people also, they had classes. But when, sometimes back when I was with my students in class, they asked me, well, how were they trained? Did you go to the medical school? Not that way. But that's the kind of training we are talking about. Remember, you cannot even give those herbs to another person to give people. Remember, they can be even poisonous and they may die. So it was given by trained personnel. That is our traditional medicine. And by the way, talking about it, because I've been told, or I've read in the media, that there is that the dreaded pandemic. There is a country in Africa that has come up with a traditional concoction, that is Madagascar. You know, we talk about Madagascar actually being the largest island, which was colonized by the French. Remember, we know it as the biggest island country when you talk about the country or the continent Africa. That country, I've read it, that it has it has come up with a concoction that it is alleged to cure the current pandemic. Alleged, I'm using the word alleged here, so that I don't want to give that emphatically because I don't have the information, but I've read it, that is going, and some other countries of Africa are using. I don't know whether ours is going to use, but I've been told that it's working in some other countries. We should encourage that, even I think the tradition or the traditional medicine. Then let's move from there. Then I want to talk something small about Chapter 3, that is the citizenship. How does one become a citizen? And the class 4, 5, we talk about who is a citizen. This is a person who belongs. Underline the word belong. Not a person who lives. You know, sometimes I've seen this question here. Which of the following clearly describes who a citizen of a country is? This is a person who belongs. And belonging has some other areas how you can belong. You can belong by birth. I think most of us, we are citizens by birth. But you can also be by dual citizenship, whereby you can have the citizenship of Kenya and that one of another country. But in class 8 also we shall talk about who are these people who are supposed to have. And I can mention in passing the people who can have and the people who may not have or may not take the dual citizenship. State officers and the people of the armed forces cannot have dual citizenship. So the state officers and the people from the military and our discipline forces cannot take the dual citizenship. So we have citizenship by birth, by registration, and by dual. Moving on very fast because of time, and this is a very lengthy and very enjoyable area. We are going to talk about the use of land. But before I talk about that is chapter 5, let me talk something small about chapter 4, which talks about human rights. And this is a very good topic about human rights. Remember, when you talk about human rights here, they are divided into different areas. In class 8, we shall talk about them, about the human rights. These are the rights that are enjoyed, or rights and freedoms that are enjoyed by the people of Kenya. And you are supposed to enjoy them. They are in chapter 4. Talking about them, I want to mention them very fast because they are covered in class 8. One, we have what you call the civil rights. Civil rights are those rights that you have, and nobody can take them from you. You enjoy them. For example, right to life, freedom of worship. You know, everybody, you can worship your God. Nobody can take it from you. Right of thought. You know, the way you think, nobody is going to engineer how you think. If you look at my tie and you say it's yellow, that is how you have thought, how you have looked at it. So the right of thought is a civil right. And remember, this is very important and critical in class 8, whereby you are going to be asked, the following are political rights. Which one is not? Or which one of the following groups consists of civil rights only? So your class 8, we are going to talk about them when you go there, but I can mention a few of them. Freedom of detention without trial. You know, you are not supposed to be detained without trial. You are supposed to be taken through the judicial process, and then you are going to be sent to jail if you are going to be found guilty. And then you also have freedom of movement. That's also your civil right. I can move from anywhere, but it can be curtailed due to other problems that occur. For example, I cannot travel to my county today unless I get express permission. It's because of ways that have been put to mitigate the pandemic. So, but you have your freedom of movement, that's a civil right. Then we talk about freedom from forced labor. We are not under slavery. Then we also have a right to liberty, or that's being free. Then let's talk about other freedoms that rights have been given in chapter 4. We have political rights. Political rights are as follows. One, a right to vote in elections. So everybody has a right, as long as you have attained the age of 18 years, you can go and vote. Then, alongside voting, then you can stand as a candidate. For example, if I want to stand to be a member of parliament from where I come from, 2022, I'm planning. Then nobody should deny me that political right. Then I'll go back to the people of West Mugrango and I tell them that I want to be a member of parliament. So it's upon them to decide when it comes to 2022 whether they are going to vote me in. And I think I throw my hat in the ring. So that's my political right. Then you also have when you talk about the political rights, then you have right of the freedom of association and assembly. Nobody should deny you, unless it's like a time like this when we are trying to mitigate the effects of the pandemic. Nobody should deny you the right to freely mingle with other people or join a political party or another association. So, you know, when you talk about association and assembly, there is a thin difference between that. When you talk about association, is that you have the freedom to join an organization, any club, a political party, or another. Assembly is physically meeting, but now we have been told nowadays that we should maintain the physical and the social distances. But when things are okay, we can meet somewhere in your plot there where you are staying, in your estate. You can meet and discuss, have some tea. That is assembly. That's a political right because you are, nobody should actually deny that. Then, alongside the political right, then you have the right to information. you have the right. That's why our media, like this one, has the right to go outside there and give us the raw information the way it is. Nobody should deny. And that's why sometimes we hear of journalists being harassed by maybe sometimes the security, which is unfortunate, because every person should get the information, and that's a right to Kenyan. That's a right to information, which is a political right. Then social rights, a right to marry and have a family when you are 18 years. That's your right. Then that is a social right. Then we talk about right to privacy. Nobody should know what, okay, if you don't want to give out your details or your secrets, you have a right to your privacy. That's a social right. Right to healthcare and right to education. Remember, education and healthcare, they are social services. So I've talked those things in passing, but I know they are very, very important when it comes to our exams, and I've seen them in national exams over and over again. Please make sure that you know that. And lastly, on our rights, we have the right, we have the economic rights, the right to work and earn some money. So that is your economic right. Then a right to decent housing. You must live in a good house. Right to settle anywhere in Kenya, because once you settle anywhere in Kenya, it is assumed that you are going to propagate your economic means. So that is an economic right, and also a right to a good standard of living. That is as much as it's concerned. Because of time, I want also to talk about the other element of the Constitution, that is briefly land. We have three types of land. Land in Kenya, we have the community land, which is owned by a community. We also have private land, which is owned by individuals or by citizens. And also we have public land, which is owned by the government. So we have three types of land, or three forms through which land in Kenya. We have public land, that's owned by the government. We have the community land owned by specific communities. And then we also have private land that's owned by individuals. Remember, when you talk about the early forms of agriculture, we say one of the characteristics of early forms of agriculture is that land was owned communally. And the communities actually were given that land to till, but land belonged to a community. Now, let me talk about these three: the legislature, that's the parliament, and also talk about the judiciary and the executive. When you talk about the legislature here, I'm going to talk about this very briefly. This is also known as parliament. The main function, this is also very common in KCP. It is to make and amend laws. This is among other. This is the main one. So the main role of the legislative arm of government, or the legislature or parliament, is to make and amend laws. There is a term that is commonly used, what we call bicameral. The bicameral government or parliament. This is, it means that it has two houses. So our legislative arm has two houses. That is the National Assembly and the Senate. Remember, these ones I found in chapter 8 of the Constitution, and their composition and roles. Let me talk about composition of this, because it's very important. Let me talk about the composition of the National Assembly. Who are the members? Remember, I talked before that if you're going to make amendments, then we need 2/3 of the members of parliament. Then after this, we are going to look at how can we achieve these 2/3. They are the following: 290 members elected to represent their constituencies. One of them, West Mugrango, we can say about Nambale, Kasarani, all those ones, to make 290 of them. When I've talked about Nambale, somebody is very happy, Samia. 290 elected members. Then we talk about 47. These are women reps. The 47 women reps that are actually elected to represent counties in the National Assembly. So if you are going to be asked, which officer is elected to represent the county in the National Assembly, please, when you are doing the exams, underline and mark those words. We fail not because we do not know, but because sometimes we are not very careful. So the 47 women reps are elected in our counties to represent our counties in the National Assembly. Then we have 12 nominated. We have 12 nominated members. They are nominated by political parties. A very common question here. Not by IBC, by political parties, according to their strength in parliament. So we have 12 nominated, and then we also have one, who is the ex officio. Ex officio. There used to be two in the old constitution. So ex officio, we have one, and this is the speaker. Remember, the role of the speaker is to control and chair debates in parliament. So we have this composition. So from this, excluding the speaker, if you add all these, this now gives the total composition of the National Assembly. If I've written all of them, then this one, they should be, I think, 349, if I'm not wrong. They should be 349. So if you want to make an amendment, you must have 2/3 of these. Your mathematics is going to tell you how many. So at least 2/3 of these must be there to vote and to make the quorum so that we can effect the changes when it comes to amendment. We can look at this, the membership or the composition of the Senate. Briefly, the composition of the Senate, because this is also very... Now, before that, the speaker, how does the speaker get to his office? The speaker is elected by members of that assembly. So if you're talking about the speaker of the National Assembly, he is elected by both elected and nominated members. They elect the speaker. About the speaker of the county assembly, and we have 47 county assemblies, they are also elected, they are also elected by elected MCAs and nominated ones. How about the speaker of the Senate? Is elected by the senators, both elected and those ones nominated. So that's a very common question. I think I've answered so many questions of KCP. We are going to look at the KCPs. Now let's look at the composition of the Senate. Composition of the Senate. One, we also have senators, 47 elected, representing the counties, elected. Then we also have 16. These, all of them must be women. I don't know why they were all women, because about if, I know it was actually to raise the number of women in leadership, but I was asking myself that what will happen if all the 47 are also women? If all of them are elected? If we elect all the 47 and we elect them women, and then we also add the other 16, I think something must be done. That's why I say that actually the constitution is not static. We may find that if this happens, then we may change or we may amend. Then from here, we have 2 nominated representing the youth, and they should be of either gender. And we also have 2 nominated the disabled, either gender. Then you also have one ex officio. One ex officio. This one is the speaker. So I've given you the composition of the 2 houses. And this one actually is very well talked about in chapter 8. Chapter 9, we talk about the executive. The main function, and before I go far, the executive is made up of the president, the deputy president, and the cabinet. Remember, all the civil servants are also there. But the main, and this question is also very common, that's why I want to, because of time, to touch on them. The executive, the main role is actually to implement the law or to execute the law. That is what we call the executive. Actually, the main role of, I've said the main role of parliament or legislature is to make and amend laws. Our executive, the main role is to implement the law. And then we go to chapter 10, we talk about the judiciary, whereby the main function of the judiciary is actually to interpret the law. It is to interpret the law, the main function to interpret and enforce the law. Those are the words. To the main function of the judiciary is actually to interpret and enforce the law. Remember, when we talk about the members, they include the Chief Justice. We also have the registrar of the judiciary, the judges, and magistrates. Let me mention one thing here, and I know the examiner may mention it. When you talk about which is this official who belongs both to the executive and to the judiciary. I think my learner at home there, you are pondering, who is this official who is both a member of the judiciary and a member of the executive? So if you can write to us your answer, we can look at it, but I am going to give you the answer. That person or that official who belongs both to the executive and to the judiciary, actually, that is the Attorney General. The Attorney General. Executive, how is he a member of the executive? He is a member of the cabinet. How is he a member of the judiciary? He is a member of the Judicial Service Commission. That is my understanding and my interpretation of this. That member actually belongs to the two arms of government. Now, let me look at the importance of the Constitution, as I've said before. One, it offers guidelines on the structure of government. Before that, okay, it guides the Kenyan society on how to live in peace and harmony. So the Constitution is going to tell us or to guide us on how to live all the conflicts, because everybody, every aspect, has been put in its place. So that in this case, therefore, we are not going to be in conflict, because we know that this one must be done this way or this one belongs where. So it's going to guide us to live in harmony. Two, the Constitution, it gives us the structure of government, the ledge. So the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, they have been outlined. So it gives us the structure of government. I remember that's one of the questions that we want to answer later. Then we also talk about the other one, which is it provides suggestions on how we are going to deal with the conflicts if they appear. It also gives us guidelines on how we are going to deal with our finances. Remember, that is that. Now, because of time, remember I talked about this topic. I said that we are going to talk about the Constitution. There is a lot that we may talk about the Constitution, but I've given you what the syllabus of our Class 7 guides us. We shall talk much of it when we talk about the Class 8 work, but I want us to also touch on the parliamentary electoral process. There is one area here that I want you to go and read in Class 7. That area is about which is the correct order, the process, the procedure, the process of conducting a general elections. There is one thing I want you to tell you here. You are going to look at these processes, should they come in exam. There are some processes which may not come before the other, before I come to the qualifications of members. But for example, you look at when there is an election and remember the seats have been declared vacant, when the speaker gives out writs, that's when we dissolve a parliament. Then you find that there is what we call mass registration of voters. So we must start with registering voters mass. Of course, remember there is also continuous registration of voters. Then after we register voters, we conduct nominations by political parties. One thing is very clear. It is you conduct the nominations. After that, you are going to print the election materials. What I mean here is that there is no way you can print the ballot papers before you carry out nominations. What do I mean by nominations? You may find that this political party, let me call it political party A, it has attracted 20 or 10 candidates in a particular constituency. Then you find that the electoral body needs only one person or one candidate from that political party for the purposes of elections, because also other political parties have. So in this case, therefore, they must carry out nominations, and then they give the electoral body one candidate. So that's what we call nominations. So nominations must be carried out before we go to print. After printing, remember, we are going to maybe establish the electoral or the polling stations. Then we go to the elections. We go to the counting of votes, or the election safe. We go to the counting of the votes. Then we go to the announcement of results. And then you can also go to court if you feel that there is some irregularity which has been done. So that's the process. Remember, there are some processes which cannot come before the others. Now, for one to be a member of parliament, what do you need? One, you must be a registered voter. One, you must be a registered voter in our constituency. And remember, this thing is very clear. I don't have to be, and I don't have to be registered in where I come from for me to go and stand as a member of parliament. So qualifications, I got a few qualifications for parliamentary elections. That's to the candidates. That's also very common. One, you must be a registered voter. Registered voter. You must, for example, if I'm registered in Kasarani, where I normally vote, and I want to go and stand for elections in West Mugrango, where I also come from, as long as I'm registered, I can go to West Mugrango today and be voted because I'm registered. What happens is that I may not be in a position to vote, but I'll be voted in. After that, then another qualification, I should be in a position to, should be able to read, I think read and write, in English and Kiswahili. We say they are visual languages so that you can communicate in the house, in parliament. Then you must also be a member of a registered political party. You must be a member of a political party. You must also be, that one is not tied there. You can also, a member can also be independent. We have that provision. You can also be independent. So those are some of the qualifications that you should have. Then also you must also satisfy Chapter 6 of our Constitution. You must be satisfy the moral aspects of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. So those are the aspects. Once you have those ones, you are good to go. Now, once you are in parliament, how can one lose a parliamentary seat? One, if a member, how a member can lose a parliamentary seat. If a member is imprisoned for more than 6 months, I think that those are very important. Those are key areas, and there are questions are going to be, we have questions that are going to be there very soon. In fact, after this, we are on to the questions, and we are going to answer them. Let me go through this very fast before I look at the questions that have appeared. One, once you are a member of parliament, you've been elected, how can you lose? Let's finish up very fast. In fact, we have very few minutes, about 5 of them or less. So let's do the following. Right, let me go through how one member can lose a parliamentary seat. If a member is imprisoned for 6 months, 1. 2, if a member is declared bankrupt by a court of law. 3, if a member resigns by writing to the speaker. In fact, you cannot go to a public rally and say that, oh, mimi nimejiuzulu, if you have not actually written to the speaker. Then, if a member is found guilty of an election offense, if a member is proven not to be a Kenyan, if a member is elected speaker, and if a member is elected speaker, not deputy speaker, but if a member is elected speaker, sometimes the examiner can bring you deputy speaker there, but with you have seen the speaker, you are going to give that. If a member is elected deputy speaker, and if a member is recalled, my director can put up the questions. I'm not going to go through them. You can put up the questions for the students to know. 2018, I can tell you where you are going to look at those as they are on the wall. I'm not going to discuss them because of time. Now, 2018, number 56. In fact, the question is, in Kenya, the parliament is made up of the National Assembly and the Senate. I talked about the cabinet. Okay. Number 16, another question, number 2018 is number 60. There are very many questions. I just picked a few. Then 2016, number 57, which says that of the following are functions of the legislative arm of government. Which one is not? You can see that. That is 2016, number 57. 2017, number 56. Which of the following explains why citizens participate in elections? And I told you that. Why do we participate in voting? So that to elect representative of government. That's the correct answer. Remember, it's not, nobody is going to force you to vote. There's no law, but in other countries there's that law. Then number 2015, we have number 58, or question number 58, and then question 59 of that particular here. Then 60. 2013, we have question 55 and question 60. There are very many questions, and 2012, we have page 50, question 59. So if you are going, you can see the questions, please, you can read them somewhere and go through them. They are the things that we have been discussing. Remember, you can also go back to this area. You read it class 7. Remember, as a candidate, you are supposed to go revise social studies. Actually, you go back to the other classes. Remember, it is a whole thing, right, from class 1 to class 8, and mostly you go back to class 7, class 8 you read. And that one now brings to the end of our lesson. On behalf of the technical crew, my name, once more, is Teacher Vincent Obuk of Thika Road Christian School. I wish you the best. Continue staying safe, and meet next time. From me, bye.